the flower would be different than a tree, especially when it comes to wood versus the flower stem. What is made out of? God, what if that was a spider web? There's an aspect of fungus because it has fuzz. These are some good looking cloves. Look what else I found. This isn't a sticker, it's just like a jacked up one. How many things are fungus that you wouldn't even know were it? Over here we've got some white perspiration. You might think it's paint. You may believe a newspaper dissolved onto it and it's garbage, but it actually is fungus. And it's no surprise that most trees have some similarity of that archetype. The cherry blossom is prevalent in this area, and it's only fascinating because I bought a CD that was signed by 2 Japanese men, and they made an album devoted to the cherry blossom. And I would always see that this tree is like over artwork in Japan and like in movies or stuff like that. And lo and behold, that I know, if you really want to, you know, those people who just like get caked up in makeup, grab one of those branches and just be like sewing your face with all the flowers. Yeah, I would do that, but it would probably like break and scratch my face. Excuse me, but if there was like a higher dimension where you could just take all the fruits of like labor of all the flowers being bloomed, and you could take a stick and do that to your face without it abrasing, you would be able to do that if you're on a higher dimension. And that's kind of what is attributed to the indigenous people, how their faces are more well defined with like, just take an image of any mummy and you'll see that the face is like more like tight and round, specifically on the cheeks, but like they just have this one image where it's so like you know exactly that this person is super indigenous, and that there's like a gradation of that characteristic of the archetype of the face of a mummy represented in indigenous people. And I'm trying not to be racist, but this is true, and I'm like specifically pointing that out to make a purpose of how like if you didn't want to abrase your face or get wrinkles, you would want that archetype of a face. If I had that, I could take like a branch and flowers and be like brushing my face with it and not get abrased. You know, in the olden days, the kids would go and they would like jump in the river, and that would be like what really early in the days where like Huckleberry Finn, those types of kids would like jump in the river, and that they would like go and do that to freshen up. Nowadays, like this would be kind of like the same accord but done with flowers. And I don't suggest doing this because I believe that flowers are really hard to grow back, but just because no one else is probably doing this, I'm gonna do it and believe that this is actual thing. Because like I don't wear makeup, but one time I did buy like foundation, and I saw that like the important makeup has the minerals and stuff in it, just like charcoal toothpaste. If you want to put like minerals of like charcoal on your face, I think that's what the foundation I got had, like charcoal in it, and it was like supposed to be better because it has minerals like that. Flowers, the dandelion has minerals inside its petals, so I'm just presuming that most flowers have the same minerals inside their petals. So what I'm about to do is attempt to freshen up, but with doing so, it's going to be as though I'm applying makeup on my face, because the best makeup has vitamins and minerals in it. And this is just to like relieve the sweat from my hair, because I was working out, and I know that like when you put baby powder in your hair, it gets the grease out. But like doing this with flowers, I assume that it's somewhat beneficial too. Okay, that's good enough. That this is over here as well to enrich in its roots. Within case of the dandelion, its stem is hollow. Very interesting that not all flower stems are hollow. I think what I was trying to cover is that the difference between delicate and upfront and strong is that the flower would be different than a tree. I accidentally just broke this. Tree ring has different calibrate. Just because it's a different color, you can tell that this is like more of like a cork. The darker is like a cork, like in your wine bottle. And then, but together, it even more so doubles as more corky. If they were looking at each other from like materialistic vantages, which in a sense they are. The tree has rings in it. If each ring were onto itself hollow, because they're different gradations, clearly because they're different colored, they would have different spectrum. Just like human skin is different colors, and that's just because it has different gradation of melanin. Whereas the black people, their melanin, they need more sunlight because living close to an equator is how that they formed that color of skin. Whereas people in Antarctica and Eskimos having lighter skin need less vitamin D because their melanin calls for different aspects, all based upon gradation, the anchor being melanin. But if we're talking about wood, its cells are different than a flower's stem cells. Or if you're looking at stuff in a higher dimension, you can be more abrupt. And I guess the greatest example of this would be a singularity inside of a black hole is on one dimension. A thing outside of the black hole is on a lower dimension. Because of the singularity being outside or inside of the black hole at the very center, it sees everything as though the Big Bang had never Big Banged. This is true because the Big Bang came from a singularity. The singularity remains within the black hole. Whereas us being outside of a black hole, even if they say you live underneath a rock, if you're closed-minded, that's still not even that bad. If you would live inside of a black hole, you would be non-existent because the singularity would see you as not being part of the Big Bang that actually occurred. To it, it never had occurred yet, being that it is it in its entirety. So it hasn't yet happened in a black hole. Outside of a black hole, time has happened and is running. Thanks for watching. And this is the case with even you, like when your face cracks, you'll see that people who are like really indigenous, they have like really strong cheekbones and really defined like shapes on the face. Like if you look at a body that has been mummified, you see the same characteristics where it just like is more defined in those regions. And why it's more defined in those regions is that it's a tactic that is utilized in order to minimize fractures. I was worried about the flowers not having being able to grow back as quickly as they could because the petals take so long for it to grow, and then when you mow your grass, it's just gonna be like chopping them down. And what I noticed then was that there was grass around it. If you keep it, it was keeping the grass around it not to grow as long as it could. Now this might be a conspiracy theory, but I saw that the grass, if it was not mowed around the flowers that were growing wild, and if there was enough of them, damn it, I hate my hair getting in my face. He was like, why do you have your hair so long? Good point. But I mean, if it was better suited, like if it didn't have split ends, it wouldn't like split out from the main sectors and abrase my face. Oh, this is just like the grass with the blades of the grass. The flower, it almost seemed as though as if there was enough of them around each other and they weren't, it doesn't work for all flowers like these dandelions. The grass will go really big around all of them, but it was the purple ones where they had a whole bunch of purple ones all together, and it looked like as they were making the grass around them grow in these thick blades too. There were only the thick blades were around all the purple grasses, and it was as if they were making them not grow in excessive breaching. This would be an excessive breaching, but that's because that these are the thin blades and not the thick blades. The thick blades were able to get tamed. So supposedly, now this is up for more research. The right to review is a right that you're supposed to be allowed, and you go to the District of Columbia if the Homeland Security brushes you aside. Thanks for watching. And also there's bells, different kinds of bells, and I want to know how many different types of bells have the right to sound different. That's not even a thing. Like, you can't say that because a bell is gonna ring, and so like let freedom ring. Depressing or taking away freedom shouldn't even be a thing because it's just already apparent upon initiated its own course. So hormones are very different, and for everyone, when they're taking like supplements with hormones, it could have different effects within the body, adverse effects, because everyone's made different. If your glands, are they part of that? Nicotine lozenge at a truck stop, and now I'm seeing this outside of a different place. One more. Some good looking bulbs. Bulbs are good looking. And this just comes down to